Hello again, my World of Magic players, and today we are back following the release of the Hunting Grounds. This is going to be a guide, tips, and tricks to help you get started for the 4 hours you have left inside this dungeon. And for clarification, I do mean 4 hours, as the moment that you run out of time, you will be booted back to the village spawn. But with that, let's get into the tips and tricks that will help you make the most of the time that you do have. First things first, the altar system. The altar system is probably going to be your best friend in the Hunting Grounds. Not only does the altar system allow monsters to drop more of the mana condensate pieces, but all monsters will get a straight up EXP buff whenever you're in the area trying to take them down. Here I'm trying to separate one from the other, so it'll be easier for me to check exactly what the base EXP is. As you can see, there's no altar buff on this map. When I kill this mob, I go from 246 to 265, a 19-point increase. Now comparatively, with the altar, I go from 202 to 228, a 26-point increase, 0.7 more than the other map. So you're probably thinking, well, why wouldn't I just train at the altar map? Well, you're not going to be the only person thinking that way. Everyone's going to want a little bit of that XP, you know? This creates a situation where everybody's going to have to fight other people for spots to train. So if you want my advice would be altar maps all the way. Like, it's not even close. When you go and compare the EXP versus the amount of times you're actually going to be PK'd, it's no contest. You're going to want to go to an altar map if you're training no matter what. So you may be wondering, well, why would I want to go to anywhere that isn't an altar map anyway? And that's where we get into the interesting mechanic, the Revenants. Revenants are a new part of the World of Magic. In the Hunting Grounds, whenever you're in the wetlands, there's going to be a meter that shows up. When you fill that meter up, it'll give you the opportunity to spawn a Revenant. Revenants are a particularly sought-after mob in the World of Magic because they actually drop enchants, stamps. There are a couple of other drops, I don't know what they are yet though. And being highly sought after, that makes them a huge target for anybody who wants to collect stuff. So if you happen to summon a Revenant, you're going to have the entire map on your butt in about 5 seconds. And that, my friends, is where the altarless areas come in. In the altarless areas, you're actually going to be able to still build up enough to get a Revenant. However, since you're not going to be competing with other people to try and take it down, chances are you're probably going to be able to get the drop before anyone else. A key example is here. I notice I'm full up on energy. I'm trying to find a place where there's nobody around. I notice, oh, huge empty space right here. Yeah, it's a little bit of a walkway, but I'm hoping I can get it before anyone gets here in time. However, the moment I summon it, boom, everyone is on my butt, ready to take it down too. You should definitely have a party with you if you're going to go Revenant hunting. So unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be able to do enough damage to actually take it out before they do. Now, the Revenant's on a special system. It doesn't drop the loot based on the damage, it drops based on who hit the Revenant last when it dies. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't look like we got any drops for this one. However, it was interesting to know and interesting to find out how these mechanics worked. So I'm looking forward to doing it again in next week when I'm able to go back into the Hunting Grounds. The Sinai Plains do have their own sort of mechanic like this. However, Super Bloom is a lot more random, and it's more of a if you happen to come upon it when it gets summoned. Alright, let's get into the info that we do know about the Hunting Grounds. Currently, there are 3 different types of mobs, one that's level 34, one that's level 39, and one that's level 44. Doesn't matter what level you are, you will gain some sort of XP from any of the mobs that are killed. Even at level 43, I was able to get 0.3% from the level 34 mobs. That means regardless of whether you're a hardcore trainer or just a casual trying to gain a bit of XP while you can, you'll be able to do what you want to within the allotted time. Also, the mobs in the Hunting Ground are going to have the same amount of HP regardless of which ground you're on. If you're in the plains, the level 34 mob is going to have 2000 HP. If you're in the wetlands, the level 34 mob is going to have 2000 HP as well. This applies to all tiers of enemy, so level 39 is going to have 2700, the level 44 is going to have the 4000. Now, if you're having trouble figuring out which mob you should focus on, let me use me as an example. At level 43, a warrior, I get 0.6 from the level 39 mobs. 0.6 isn't too bad, however, when you compare it to the level 44 one, at 0.9, it doesn't seem that efficient. However, because I'm a warrior, I'm able to sweep large hordes of them all at once. This means that the time it takes for me to kill 4 of the level 39 mobs is faster than it takes for me to take down even a single level 44 mob. So while the higher XP is a lot more lucrative, it's way more efficient for me to focus on taking down as many as I can in a horde all at once. Now, I don't really have a super high level single target damage character. However, on my breaker, it looks like it's more efficient for me to focus on taking down the higher level mob rather than the lower level one. Now it's time to get into one of the most lackluster good parts of the hunting grounds, and that's going to be the reward system. So, relevantly, the mobs in the hunting grounds don't drop items. The only exception are the mini-bosses like the Revenants and the Super Blooms. However, all mobs in either hunting ground, both the level 48 plus one and the level 31, drop mana condensate or condensate pieces. I didn't really have time to go through what the reward systems were when I was in the hunting ground. I only got them last minute and I didn't manage to record them, so I will be bringing this screenshot back. So the rewards that you are going to be able to get are going to be a little lackluster. The only items available are going to be the breath gems and the gold bars. Now this isn't too inherently bad. The gold bars you can exchange twice a week. That's 100,000 gold just in your pocket immediately, and the breath gems are each 3,000, so getting 20 a week, that's an extra 60,000 in your pocket that you don't have to spend to summon pets. And that unfortunately is all we have in the reward pool at this moment. This also concludes the section that I have for tips on the hunting ground. The hunting grounds are an extremely simple and accessible place, and I think that it's not that hard to kind of get into. However, if you're unprepared, it will leave you kind of stuck for your initial time. And since you only have 4 hours a week, it's really important that you're kind of to the point and quick with what you want to do. From here, I'm going to kind of get into rants about what the hunting grounds should do from here on out, and what my suggestions would be going forward, and what I think other people should kind of look out for as well. However, if you're looking for any more info regarding the hunting grounds, unfortunately this is all I have. I am going to try again next week to get more info on the Super Bloom and the Sinai Plain mobs. However, we're limited on how much time we have to be in that situation, so that can kind of concludes it here for that. Now we're going to kind of get into my thoughts about the hunting grounds, what I like and what I dislike about it, and what I think they should do in the future to make it better for all the players that are playing. Immediately right off the rip, what I like about it is how accessible it is. The ability to join whenever and wherever you want at no cost is huge, especially for higher level players, because maps like Lunarf and Islat take gold in order to enter. So if you're constantly going between village and those areas, you're paying like tens of thousands of gold just to train. This initial system doesn't allow you to reap the benefits of the current events going on. For example, right now the Shining Stone event is on. Yeah, they added the alchemy potion mechanic, which allows you to use them anywhere else. However, it's inefficient. You need to spend 3 stones comparative to 1 to get the buff. If you're in a place like Islat and you go back to the village in order to attain that buff, now you have to spend another 10,000 gold just to get into a training area and use it. The hunting ground doesn't have this problem. For the low price of free, you're able to recall to the village, grab the buff, immediately load into the hunting ground, use the buff at no cost to you. Now, this could be a bigger question about map design, but I don't really think I want to get into that discussion yet. So, just keeping it on topic, now I have XP gain. The XP you gain on the grounds is higher than or equal to certain areas, like Islat. Like, for example, I'm in Islat. I fight a Shurun enemy. The enemy has 3,500 HP. It is 1 level higher than me at level 44. I gain 0.7 EXP on that mob. Whereas instead in the hunting ground, I fight the level 44 enemy as well. It's 4000 HP, but I get 0.9. And then on top of that, as I discussed earlier, the level 39 mob gives me 0.6. And it has much lower HP than both the Shurun and the level 44 mob in the hunting ground. So just general EXP gain is a huge advantage of the hunting ground as a whole. And then we have community. This is probably one of my more favorite parts of the hunting grounds as a whole, but being able to talk to people from other servers, as well as being able to communicate with people in our own servers who happen to be in the other faction, huge party potential. We have a lot of people just kind of talking to each other about different situations in our server and in other servers. It is sure a little toxic at times, but honestly, it's a lot more fun overall. Another huge pro kind of goes into the EXP gain aspect of it, but an overabundance of just mobs, of just monsters that you can fight. As for what I mean by that, let me take the Shurun example again. The Shuruns are only in about a quarter of the map of Islot. Sure, it's more like half of where they can spawn, but if you take the amount of total mobs in total, it only makes up like a quarter of the total mobs in the map. The hunting grounds doesn't have this problem. At any one time, there might be hundreds, if not thousands, I can't be sure, of mobs spawned in all at once. Just take the video that I'm showing you as an example. Look at how many mobs I have in one area. This is in an altered space. This is the bonus XP. This is as many people in one area as you can get, and I still have an overabundance of mobs that I can choose from. Meanwhile, the last thing I'd say I love about the hunting grounds is the rewards. As lackluster as they are, an extra 100,000 just for training is a huge buff. The extra pet gems too, like those buffs to XP that the costume pets give you are just so worth it in the end. And so far I haven't heard any complaints from anybody either. Yeah, some of the complaints are that there's not enough rewards, and I can definitely get into that. However, for the most part, everyone has been like, oh, free money. And from there, we kind of get into the cons of the hunting ground. Obviously the first ones is the lack of rewards that you can get from the hunting grounds training in general. Love the gold bars, love the gems. I do wish there was more. There was a suggestion that you should be able to trade the mana condensate pieces for more time in the hunting grounds. I think that would be a huge implementation. It would give me more incentive to keep training in there, and it would give the reward to the people who are really dedicated to training. And I think they should even go a step further and allow you to exchange for stamps. Stamps are huge. Stamps are the collection portion of your character stats. If they implemented, say, a 3 weekly limit, honestly, yeah, it's not much, but it would definitely go a long way in adding to people's collections. I say they should do it. They should add a weekly amount of like equipment B stamps for the lower level hunting grounds and equipment A stamps for the higher level hunting grounds. Not so much that it would be like overpowered, but enough that it would actually help you out in making your character stronger. Another con I would have to say is the way that the altar system is kind of implemented. The way it's implemented now is that the altar system will change maps about every day. The more you fight in one area, the higher a chance of that altar being activated, but it kind of just encourages everyone to be funneled into one map. Sure, I said that was fine with the overabundance of mobs. However, imagine if everyone all at once happens to load in on one map. I feel like that would cause not just performance issues, but you'd have constant over PvP issues. And the over PvP issues kind of lend into the last problem I kind of have with the hunting grounds. The biggest issue is the timer. Only having 4 hours in a week to compete is kind of stressful, but not just that. When you're in the spawn area of the safe zone, your timer is still going down. So if you get PK'd and sent back to the spawn, that's an entire waste of your timer. Sure, you can get right back into it. However, if you're constantly in PvP over and over and over again, you're losing straight whole hours almost of just straight dying, respawn, go back in just to die again. And honestly, I think that kind of just defeats the point of the accessibility of the hunting grounds. Sure, the PvP should be encouraged. However, you should also be encouraged to want to go into the hunting grounds when there's as many people there as possible. The way it's implemented now, it just encourages you to kind of wait until the heat dies down, and then you go in and do what you want. And I think that just kind of defeats the whole community aspect of it. If I'm in an area where I'm able to talk to as many people from as many servers as I want as much time as possible to kind of just discuss with them, to hear their experiences. I'm a very social creature in that aspect. I love hearing about how other people deal with their problems in other servers. It just kind of discourages that. It kind of makes you like, oh, we gotta go, we gotta train, we gotta use our time, we gotta move. If anything, I think that's the biggest thing that Come To Us needs to add. They need to give you the option to use the resources that you get in the hunting ground to give you more time to be in the hunting ground. Sure, the spawn might have the time removed, but if you're taking the time to talk to people and then later on you go train, you take care of that, and then you have enough resources to like, oh, I get to buy another hour. Perfect. Now you can get to talk to people more, or you get to train more instead of needing to like pick one or the other. But yeah, this is where I think I'm going to wrap it up. This was my tips, thoughts, and comments on the hunting grounds now. I do plan on making some instant dungeon guides in the future as well. I want to be able to share with people who are a little nervous to get into that, because only having one chance per week is a bit stressful sometimes. I do get that. However, I think having somebody who kind of understands that and it kind of explains what you need to do in each instance would really help you out. If you happen to learn something from this video, or you found out something that you liked, or you enjoyed just listening to me talk, leave a like, subscribe because I will be continuing this, and if you have any comments, any suggestions, any types of videos that you would want to see, let me know, and I will go ahead and read those and check it on out and try and make content around that as well. And with that, I'll go ahead and see y'all later. Peace.